In this video, I'm going to explain everything and we'll do some basic recon. So if you are interested in ethical hunting or if you just started out, this video will be perfectly fit for you because I'll explain everything and we'll go through everything practically. If you are complete and you're using also the checklist that we have inside of the course, then if you watch the video, you can already make progress by clicking from Pirulus to vaguely familiar if you watch this video, because I'll be demonstrating some fingerprinting techniques to you in this video. Without further ado, please enjoy the video and keep learning. So we have now connected to the machine and I'm just trying to explain things as clearly as possible, right? Really just taking my time and explaining. So start the machine if you have not already. And yeah, let's get started on this machine, okay? So normally I would go through my notes like this. Obviously I have a ton of notes and people have been loving them and you can grab them if you want as well. And this is normally the one-liner I would like to run, right? To just scan for the targets. I can show you that, but I just want to keep things as simple as possible because it's not really required, especially not at the sides again. So we can just run mmap-v on this IP, and that's going to scan all of the ports of this IP. And as you see now, we can actually communicate to a thread because the VPN is active. If I chill the connection of the VPN and I try again, it can't scan these two ports, it's open. But it didn't find anything. So let's reconnect to the VPN. When it says initialization sequence completed, that's how you know that it's good to go. Let's do it again. There we go. Plan map is a port scanning tool. When you're going after a target or an IP address or domain, it's very important to essentially know all of the ports that are, I suppose, right? But as one IP can have many different ports, and in this instance, two ports are open, SSH and a HTTP port, right? So this is a website. So if you go to a browser, we can see this is a website. So we can either specify column 80, right, which is the HTTP port 80, but you can also do like this and it will just work with defaults. So yeah, we can now see that this is a website we're running again. So this is just a lot of information now. And it can be all types of websites, obviously, when you're doing CDMs and Ubuntu, whatever you're doing. So I'm going to try to keep things as low as possible. So typically, when you're going after a target, right, you are very interested in a few things. So if we go back to my notes, you can scan for directories, right? So for instance, so it doesn't seem to have directories. And with me in the bottom left, by the way, it has pound symbols. Again. So it doesn't seem to have many directories that I can see immediate to this. But you doesn't want to scan for the directories, right? So we could just do that now. So first, I would like to add this IP as something called an environment variable. All that really means is that instead of me having to type in the IP over and over again, like pinging this IP, I can now just ping $sign target. And you can see that that's the same IP, right? The benefit of doing this, there's a few benefits, but the one thing that I liked, is just that I can copy paste from my notes, and then this is, but then I can change this, right? So I can run this right here. So this is essentially a tool that reinforces directories and files. And we reduce auto targets. And we're using a directory word list right there to try to find different directories. I can show you them. So I'm going to show you the bottom view of this warbist, and I can also show you like the 10 first as well. So it's just random things. So it tries to do like first do that the website, and then like the IP, and then CDI them. But it tries that first, and then it tries images, and then it tries admin, etc. You get the point. And then based on the response of the web server, it should tell whether this is actually a valid path or if this simply just doesn't exist, right? And by the way, if you don't have GoBuster, you can run something like, I believe apt system GoBuster, like cell, or sudo apt system GoBuster, and then you can run the tool that I'm about to run, this one right here. So let's just try this, run this for fun. And we can instantly see that there is a path called images that is open. Like, yeah. We can let this one run and see what else. We can also see server status. Now I'm going to give you a useful rule to remember. So this is the HTTP response again. This is 301. Typically anything 300, so like 301, 302, etc., means that it's some form of a redirect, which means when we went to the IP, right? We went to HTTP and then the IP and then / images. It redirected us to images dash, okay? Just because there wasn't a dash in the word list, it's not that important, right? We can also see that there is a directory called spip. Right? It once again redirected us to spip flash. This is not a great example for redirect, but it's a flight redirect, but doesn't really change much, right? But yeah, anything that's 300 is typically some form of a redirect. So when you went somewhere, it redirected you elsewhere. Anything that's or 200 means that it's basically like a valid OK response. And anything 400 typically means that it's either forbidden or the page doesn't exist. So 403 means that it's forbidden. 401 means that it's unauthorized. So yeah, typically either like you're not allowed to access it or the page doesn't exist when it's something 400. And if it's something with 500, typically then it's like some form of like server error or something like that. It's just a general useful rule to remember. So 200 tends to be okay. 300 tends to be a redirect. 400 is either like you don't have access or the page doesn't exist. Just some general rules to keep in mind. And 500, it tends to be some server error of sorts. But we can see that there's something called spip. This stands out to me because these two aren't interesting at all. We can also check for files as well. Okay. So this one is quite extensive. We don't need all of these. We don't need all of these extensions at all. To keep it simple, we can do PHP, ASP, ASPX, JavaScript. This should be more than enough, to be honest. So let's try something like that. We can instantly see that these are 403, so we don't have access, right? These are forbidden to access. And then it's trying to brute force more files, right? So I hope that makes sense so far. I'm just trying to explain things very clearly. So we can see that there was something called spip, and it's mentioning spip as well. spip community, right? So when you're doing any form of pen testing or you're going for a certification within network hacking, it also mentions spip right here. You always want to be looking for versions, okay? This is incredibly important. And really just like what's running on this server. So we can see right there with the Vapalizer, this is why Vapalizer is super useful. It gives us an actual version, okay? So we definitely want to be looking for public exploits when we see a version. Another thing you can do is to open with F12 with Firefox. And then you can go to the network tab and then hit refresh. And then this one is the GET request to spip. It actually did not give a response, so that's a very bad example. But we can see that it's essentially SPIP running. You can also do curl-i to see the headers of the request. We can even see some header information about SPIP right here running, which is interesting, right? So basically, what we're doing now is fingerprinting. We're really just trying to find as much information as possible. I think what was what I was thinking about. This is another fingerprinting tool that can be useful. So we can see that it's trying to extract some information as well, like it's running on an Apache web server. With the Linux. And then we see meta generator SPIP. We see something else mentioned to SPIP. We can also see some local config, which is interesting. So this is also curious, right? Basically, again, what we're doing now is fingerprinting. We want to find information about the server. Why do we do it? So we can look up public exploits, right? So now, let's search up SPIP, right? And we can see there's several public exploits in the exploit DB, the exploit database. Exploit DB, right? So exploit database. So this is essentially when we're using searchsploit right here, this is just a command line tool to be able to essentially parse through the various exploits that's in this exploit database right here. So if we go back, SPIP 4.2.0, which is the exact version. And even if it was something version like a bit lower, like 4.1.9 or something like that, we definitely still want to be testing because this one is later, right? So this is very interesting. So it says version 4.2, this 0.0, exactly the one we want. Remote code execution, exactly what we want. Basically means that we can execute code on the server. And it also says unauthenticated. Now, what unauthenticated means is that we don't actually have to have any valid login credentials for user access to be able to get remote code execution. So this is perfect. Now, if you enjoy how I teach and you enjoy this video and you want to take the OSCP, then what are you doing not being in this course? It's over 15 hours long and it covers everything that you need. If you're only watching the videos on YouTube, you're missing out a lot because it's over 15 hours of content. You will get access to the VIP section on Discord where you can ask me any questions and you can study alongside all the other students in our course. Right now, you will also get access to this checklist right here, which will cover at least 95% plus of all the attacks and all the techniques that you need to know for every single section. Not only initial access, but AD, pivoting, Linux, and Windows privilege escalation. And the goal for you is to reach proficient or at least basic competence on all of them. That's one of the things. We also have this entire roadmap right here, where there's a bunch of action steps and a bunch of cheat sheets inside all of these hyperlinks that I can't show you in this video. But once you have completed all of them, you know for a fact that you will be ready to get into the OSCP exams and absolutely crush it. If that sounds interesting to you, to get all of this in 15 hour plus of video footage of someone who has OSCP, who explains different attacks and techniques and methodologies, it's going to be invaluable to you. Now, some people are confused with the offer. If you're interested in the notes, these are the notes that you will constantly see me use in the videos, right? They're pretty much recommended to go hand in hand with the course, and I use them constantly in the course itself, right? So I think you'll find it extremely useful. That's also why we have the third offer, which is the bundle, where you can buy both of these together for a discount. I hope that clarifies things. Best of luck on your OSCP journey. I really hope this will be massively useful to you. I'll see you in the next video.